Mother calls the cops because I locked her out of my house. You know, sometimes life throws you into situations you never thought you'd find yourself in. This is one of those stories. It's about me, my mother, and a decision I made that spiraled into something I'll never forget. Let me tell you what happened. It all started on a quiet Saturday morning. I was sitting in my living room, sipping coffee, enjoying the peace and quiet of my own home, my house, a place I worked hard for, saved for, and finally bought after years of grinding. It wasn't a mansion or anything, but it was mine, and I was proud of it. Now, my mom, bless her heart, has always been a bit, let's say, overbearing. She's the kind of person who doesn't believe in boundaries. To her, my house was just an extension of her own. She'd show up unannounced, let herself in with the spare key I gave her for emergencies, and start rearranging things, criticizing my decor, or even inviting people over without asking. It was exhausting. I'd talked to her about it before, but she'd always brush me off. "I'm your mother," she'd say, as if that gave her a free pass to do whatever she wanted. "You wouldn't even have this house if it weren't for me raising you." Classic mom guilt trip, right? But this time, I'd had enough. So, the night before, I made a decision. I changed the locks. I didn't tell her. I figured it was time to set some boundaries, and this was step one. I thought, she'll understand. She'll get the message. Oh, how wrong I was. That morning, around 10 a.m., I heard the familiar sound of her car pulling into my driveway. My stomach tightened. I knew this was going to be awkward, but I was determined to stand my ground. She walked up to the door, jiggled the handle, and nothing. Locked. I watched through the peephole as confusion turned to frustration. She knocked hard. "Open the door!" she yelled. I took a deep breath, opened it just a crack, and said, "Mom, we need to talk." Her eyes narrowed. "Why is the door locked? Where's my key?" "I changed the locks," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I need you to respect my space. You can't just come over whenever you want." Well, that was like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. She exploded. "Are you serious? I'm your mother. You don't lock your mother out of your house. This is my family, my blood, and you're treating me like a stranger?" I tried to explain, but she wasn't having it. She started yelling loud enough for the neighbors to hear, calling me ungrateful, selfish, and a few other things I won't repeat. I stood firm, though. I told her I loved her, but this was my house, and I needed her to respect my rules. And then she said the words I never thought I'd hear. "Fine. If you won't let me in, I'll call the cops." I laughed. I thought she was bluffing. I mean, who calls the cops on their own kid for not letting them into their house? But she wasn't joking. She pulled out her phone, dialed 911, and started telling the operator that her child had locked her out of her own home. I could hear the disbelief in the operator's voice, even from where I was standing. About 15 minutes later, a police car pulled up. 2 officers got out, looking more amused than anything. I stepped outside to meet them, and my mom launched into her tirade about how I was disrespecting her, how she had a right to be in my house, and how I was out of control. The officers listened patiently, then turned to me. "Is this your house?" one of them asked. "Yes," I said, showing them my ID and the deed to the house, which I'd grabbed just in case. I changed the locks because my mom was coming over uninvited and not respecting my boundaries. The officer nodded. "Well, ma'am," he said, turning to my mom, "this is your child's house. Legally, they have the right to decide who comes in and out. If they don't want you here, you can't force your way in." You'd think that would have been the end of it, but no. My mom started crying, big, dramatic sobs, and accusing me of abandoning her, of not loving her, of being a terrible child. The officers looked at me like, "Good luck with this one," and left. After they drove off, my mom stood there, staring at me with tears streaming down her face. "I can't believe you'd do this to me," she said, "after everything I've done for you." I felt a pang of guilt, but I knew I couldn't back down. "Mom," I said, "I love you, but I need you to respect my space. This is my home. You're welcome here, but only if you call first and let me know you're coming." She didn't say anything. She just got in her car and drove away. It's been a few weeks since that day. Things are still tense between us, but she hasn't shown up unannounced again. I think, deep down, she knows I was right. Setting boundaries with family is hard, but sometimes it's necessary. And as much as I hated how it all went down, I don't regret standing up for myself. Please like and subscribe.